In terms of Earth and Venus, I did want to say something about the carbon dioxide. Um, and I just sort of hope you're enjoying all this stuff because I find it very interesting how some of this stuff works. So to start with then, let's suppose that you had the sun here, doing its thing, emitting its light and all that. And let's say that Venus is right here, and I'll sort of draw Venus in sort of this whitish color to reflect what it sort of looks like in the sky with all that cloud cover. And it turns out what will happen that if Venus did not have all of its carbon dioxide and it was hit by sunlight, as of course it is here, and let's say in the case here there is no CO2, so it didn't have all of that carbon dioxide blanket around it, causing it to be so warm, it would be about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And you sort of look at that, and that's kind of curious then. That's maybe kind of livable, right? I mean, it'd be hot, but certainly some places on Earth get about that hot in the summertime, so you sort of need a lot of sunshade and air conditioners and stuff. But there you go. Without the CO2, it would be 115 degrees. If the same thing, we did the same sort of consideration on Earth here, so Earth is always the blue planet, so I'll sort of draw it in blue here like this. Earth, of course, is there, and if the sun was bathing it in light the way it does, and Earth had, say, no atmosphere, or none of the CO2 that it has now in its atmosphere, well, it would be 0 degrees. So see, the Earth would be very cold if it wasn't for the carbon dioxide, or maybe even, let's just say, the no atmosphere. Take it a step further, no atmosphere, because of course there's other greenhouse gases that keep us a bit warm. So you see the importance that the greenhouse gases do play. And so you can make a comment then about question number 31, which is on our sheet, which says, is the presence of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere all bad? And I think the answer to the question to that is no, not for, at least for life existing. So you can see that if we didn't have some greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, we'd be at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. We'd be a big ice ball. Okay, that wouldn't be good. And so, of course, as we know, that with the CO2 in our atmosphere, let's just say the Earth here, with the carbon dioxide that we have, well, that puts it sort of at a comfortable average global temperature of 55 degrees C. Now, I know it feels a bit cold, particularly you live in some nice warm climates, but that's the average temperature on Earth. And of course, Venus, with all of its CO2, it's of course something like 800 degrees Fahrenheit all the time, everywhere all the time, no matter what. So you can look at this and go, well, Venus, has to be hot because it's so close to the sun. Well, yeah, yes and no, right? It would be 115 degrees, but it's really that carbon dioxide that really makes the temperature stick out to be what it is. And so I hope you see then the role that carbon dioxide plays. It's something that's in the news, and I guess it's bad for global warming, but it's something that we need for life as well. And so you can see here that the CO2 on Earth here, I'll go ahead and put the number once again. That's that 400 parts per million. This is sort of a number that maybe you should know and understand because it does come up in the news quite a bit, and the number's been rising, and it just crossed 400 ppm, so maybe I'll even put a plus right here, and it seems like it continues to rise. So I looked up the concentrations on Venus then, and they don't give the concentrations in ppm because the atmosphere of Venus is something like 95% CO2, so it's way off this ppm chart that you might try to draw. But what they do have is the next largest thing that I see in there is it's about 3.5% nitrogen in the atmosphere. So there is a bit of nitrogen in there, but then the next ppm thing I can possibly look up at 150 ppm is this sulfur dioxide. SO2, something like that. So the sulfur dioxide is about the only thing that even makes it onto the ppm chart. But again, 95% CO2, you just don't need this parts per million analysis for that. So hope you see then that carbon dioxide gases aren't all bad for getting temperatures of planets to a livable state, but too much of it does seem to be bad.